In the quiet, snow-dusted city of Lahti, Finland, a man named Simon Nimaku, Ekpa once lived a life that seemed far removed from the chaos of his homeland. Born in 1985 in Ebonyi State, Nigeria, Simon had been a promising athlete in his youth, a sprinter who represented Nigeria at the 2003 African Junior Championships, clutching a medal he would later dramatically renounce. By the late 2000s, he had traded the dusty tracks of West Africa for the orderly streets of Northern Europe, building a new identity as a lawyer, businessman, and even a local politician with the National Coalition Party. He ran a small law firm, Ekpa & Co. and served on the city's public transport board. To his Finnish neighbors, he was just another integrated immigrant, polite, ambitious, with a family and a mortgage. But beneath the surface, the embers of old grievances burned. Like many Igbo Nigerians, Simon carried the scars of history. The Biafran War of 1967 to 1970, where millions perished in a failed bid for independence, and the lingering sense of marginalization in modern Nigeria. In 2021, everything changed. Nnamdi Kanu, the fiery leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, was dramatically arrested in Kenya and renditioned back to Nigeria to face terrorism charges. In the vacuum, Kanu perhaps desperately appointed Simon as the new voice of Radio Biafra from afar. From his modest home office in Lahti, equipped with a ring light and a smartphone, Simon exploded onto social media. His broadcasts were electric, passionate rants in Igbo and English, invoking the ghosts of Biafra, decrying Fulani hegemony, and promising liberation. Followers multiplied like wildfire. Donations poured in for the cause, he said. Weekly Zoom fundraisers from the diaspora in the US, UK, and Europe raised thousands. To his growing legion of supporters, he was a hero, the unflinching voice in exile, bolder than Kanu himself. But cracks appeared quickly. IPOB's leadership in Nigeria disavowed his escalating calls for sit-at-home orders mandatory, shutdowns in the southeast that paralyzed economies and schools. When IPOB canceled the Monday lockdowns, Simon refused, insisting on autopilot mode. Violence followed, masked gunmen enforcing his decrees, attacking police stations who defied the orders. Bodies piled up in Anambra and Imo states. IPOB screamed that he was a saboteur, a destructive agent paid by the Nigerian government to discredit their peaceful referendum push. Kanu's family warned him to stop using the leader's name for fundraising. Undeterred, Simon went further. In 2022, he declared the full activation of a Biafra government in exile. By 2023, he was crowned by the Biafra people Prime Minister of the Biafra Republic Government in Exile, Bergi, complete with a flag, a cabinet, and even a militant wing he called the Biafra Liberation Army. He promised warships, fighter jets, imminent independence. More donations flowed, millions, critics alleged, funneled into personal accounts. Nigerian media branded him a scammer in Finland, a content creator milking diaspora desperation while living comfortably abroad. In court testimonies later revealed, Simon distanced himself entirely. He was just a content creator, not affiliated with IPOB, certainly not inciting violence. But his posts told another story, graphic videos of killings attributed to unknown gunmen. Calls to defend Biafra by any means. Finnish authorities, tipped off by Nigerian intelligence and monitoring his online empire, raided his home in November 2024. He was arrested alongside associates, accused of spreading terrorist propaganda and financing mayhem from thousands of kilometers away. The trial in Peachtree District Court was a spectacle. Prosecutors painted him as the architect of terror, coordinating attacks, collecting funds illegally, even committing tax fraud to hide the proceeds. Witnesses described coded calls. Social media archives overflowed with incitement. His defense: free speech, political persecution orchestrated by Abuja. But the judge saw through it. On September 1st, 2025, Simon Ekpa, former athlete, failed politician, self-proclaimed liberator, was sentenced to 6 years in a Finnish prison. In the southeast, many breathed relief. Markets reopened without fear. IPOB gloated. Justice for a fraud who hijacked their cause, whose enforced lockdowns and fake armies had killed innocents and enriched only himself. Nigerian officials hailed it as victory over terrorism financed from abroad. Diaspora donors felt betrayed, pockets lighter, dreams deferred. Yet in some corners, whispers persisted. To die-hard loyalists, the conviction was a badge of honor, proof he struck too close to the truth, silenced by a conspiracy of powerful enemies. Appeals were vowed. The fight would continue. In a cold cell far from the tropical heat he once fled, Simon Ekpa, the man who appointed himself prime minister of a nation that never was, now had years to reflect on ambition, exploitation, and the thin line between agitator and opportunist. Biafra's dream endured, but one of its loudest voices had been muted, not by Nigerian bullets, but by the quiet rule of law in a distant land.